Hi everyone, I'm here with Larry Clausen, Executive Vice President of Cohn Wolfe. Larry, how you doing?
Good, Jeff. You?
Can't complain, it's all good. Thanks for taking the time. Larry, can you give us just a little bit of background on yourself and Cohn Wolfe and what you're up to?
Sure. So I've been in the communication business since God invented it, and ran my own company for a number of years, for about 17 years, and then was bought out by my current employer, Cohn Wolfe, and have been here for about, I guess, 12, 13 years. All in all, I've got about 35 years of experience, so I've seen it, done it, and loved it. But what a lot of people don't know is I started my career actually in the oil and gas industry, and I spent 12 years there too. So I'm sympathetic towards the woes of energy.
No, absolutely. Larry, with your background, can you share us just some thoughts as to kind of where things are at right now from a communication standpoint for companies, and maybe some tips and ideas as to what they should be doing, shouldn't be doing, and just kind of the current landscape?
So not having access to every company, I'm going to give you a general observation. I think that companies are not doing enough to stay in touch with their employees. And it's really interesting. There was a recent study out that said that during a pandemic such as this, and it was the survey happened at the early stage of the pandemic, that the employees trust their employers more than they trust the media, and that the only ones who had greater trust were government and government officials dealing with the pandemic and health officials. So when you think about that, it seems like this is a time that the government can, or rather the companies can, really ramp up their communications. In my view, you've got companies who have laid off employees, you've got companies who are working with skeleton staff, you have companies who are full staff and doing dynamic work. But it's at this stage where people need the voice of the company to sort of reinforce that things are safe, I'm doing the right stuff, and someone's taking care of some of my issues. The other thing that companies can do when they're talking to their employees is to be sure they're giving them help and information to get them on the right track to take care of themselves. The government process is never an easy one, so if the company can help and guide the employee through it, that's value. Plus, then you generate goodwill back from the employee, and one day you probably want them to come back and work for you.
But with that, and based on an article I read from you, I mean, there's concerns sometimes from employers that if you say too much or you like, there's legal ramifications. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. I appreciate the legal ramifications, but if you're only directing employees to where they can get information, and if you're only providing them with information that's mainly of a public nature, but that you've researched well enough to present to them in an insightful fashion, there really is no litigation that would probably come out of it. You know, if you're promising that you're going to recover their jobs and you don't, that's a different story. So don't make promises, don't speculate, just deal with the facts.
Be human about it and connect with people and help them out. No, for sure.
Exactly.
Um, how about other stakeholders? I mean, when you're talking about customers or investors, again, how much, some speak a lot, some don't say a lot. And again, where's that balance?
Well, in the early stages, most of the companies weren't saying much to anybody. Now we're starting to see that ramped up quite a lot, but let me step back a moment. I think it's really important for you to stay in touch with stakeholders. They need to know that you're doing something. They need to know that you might come back with some kind of offering to them. They're interested in, often very interested in your well-being. And ultimately, they may be part of your solution to how I recover my business. So by holding a dynamic relationship with your stakeholders throughout all this, I think that you find that you'll have people wanting to come back and do business with you versus having to recruit them. So, it's better to know the ones and love the ones you know than trying to get the ones you don't know. The ones I feel particularly sorry for in this environment are not-for-profits. They have got, not a lot of money, not a lot of time, not a lot of resources, but it's really, really critical for them to reach out to their stakeholders. Their stakeholders may very well empathize with them and give them money and help them with their financial distress, and then be there when they're ready to reopen again. So I really think that's really important. But what I'm observing now is that in the last week or two, companies have started advertising on radio and TV, and they've been using the pandemic as sort of the backdrop to their ads. I think the ads are really effective if the company's truly going to do something to help people. But if it's just a brand image thing and it's thanking people or whatever, I think they're at risk of being seen as insincere. and that they're just trying to get into the mix of things. Plus, I think the airways are getting a little bit cluttered with COVID messaging. So I think that there has to be some care there. And if you even listen to popular radio stations, I mean, the jokes that are going around on COVID and the number of things that people are talking about, we could be eroding confidence of people inadvertently. And I think it's careful. It's not the time to do that because we're just now going to get back to work, and we want to make sure we do so in an orderly fashion and in a safe fashion.
Well, and I think there's a lot of business owners out there that, business leaders, where there's that balance of, I need to get some revenue in the door, but I need to be sincere. And it's just, I guess there's that fear factor, and people are so concerned about making a mistake. Are there mistakes that people could make that are blatant that you'd have any advice on?
I think if you start promising people or you give them false hope that something's going to change soon, I think that would be terrible. I think, there was a not-for-profit recently who was trying to raise $2 million during the pandemic, and they were running commercials. And it was really a blatant request of saying, I need $2 million to help these people on the street. I don't think they were successful. And I think the reason they weren't successful is because they weren't empathetic to everybody else. They were reaching into your back pocket at a time when you don't have maybe a lot of money in your back pocket. And I think so one of the things that we have to be very careful of is that we're not selling or trying to get people to endorse something until they're feeling comfortable that we actually can deliver on everything that we say we're going to do.
No, that's interesting. Going back to the top, you'd mentioned about the trust with employers. What are some of the things you're seeing in the media? Because the media is sending all kinds of messages, and I feel like in the last week or so, it seems like it's kind of fracturing our community a little bit because people are getting so many mixed messages. Like, who do you believe, and how much do you listen to, and when do you avoid it?
Yeah, the media on this whole pandemic has been totally obsessed with it. And when it started, the number of articles and stories that were out there actually began to put fear into people. And I can speak to friends of mine who have been working with media for years, and they said, I didn't want to listen to the news anymore because it's just so horrible to listen to. And I stopped listening to it too. And I'm a real media hack, so you think I'd be used to it, but I have never seen such fear mongering as I've seen within the media stories. They have gone past the responsible telling the story and telling the facts to doing irresponsible speculation. And when you speculate, and then when you speculate with a disease, you actually make people very, very fearful. It puts a lot of uncertainty into them. So I think that the media, and I think even today, they're continuing to be irresponsible with their coverage.
Larry, I mean, that great advice for everybody. I mean, I think it applies to both large companies, small companies. Any other, advice you'd share? Any final thoughts? I appreciate you taking the time here today.
Sure. Well, what I'd like to encourage people to do is not only just to talk to fellow employees and to address your stakeholders and your organizations, but also to just talk to your friends and to make sure you stay in touch with them. This is really a psychological time in our lives that we'll never experience again. You may not know exactly what's happening to you, but often a friend can tell you, hey, you need a little bit of chat around that. So I think it's a whole network of communication that should occur.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll see you in person sometime soon here.
Okay, Jeff. Take care.
Thanks, Larry.